Welcome to Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, CEO of ACT.
Hi, everyone. Ernie Bray here with another episode of Focus on Claims. And as our listeners know, we always like to talk about different things, technology, innovation, but I also like to talk about the human aspect of claims because a lot of times I think I've said this 1,000 times, so I sound like a broken record, but a lot of times we focus on technology and innovation, but we forget about the human touch. And I've said this again and again, and that's why today we want to bring that human element in. And I think it's so important that we continue that focus because as we bring technologies into the industry, you still need to have that empathy, that personal touch. And today our guest, Chanel Tran, is a owner of an appraisal company out of North Carolina. And I wanted to have her on to hear her story because I've seen a lot of her posts on LinkedIn. She's very active. I'm very impressed with that, frankly. I think it's really exciting because I love the entrepreneurial stories. And so today, welcome, Chanel. Thanks for coming on.
How you doing, Ernie? Thanks for having me.
Hey, of course. Well, I want to talk a little bit about sort of your entrepreneurial story. And I think this is powerful for other independent appraisers out there and those who really want to drive their success in their own business and kind of get your personal journey. So tell us a little bit, our listeners, how you got in the industry and how you got started, a little bit of your background.
Yes. So I'm Chanel Tran. I am the head appraiser in charge at AfterIt Claims, located in Charlotte, North Carolina. I got started after my family relocated from Phoenix, Arizona to Charlotte, Mecklenburg area. Mm-hmm. And I needed to do something different. I was tired of being behind the desk. I previously worked for a company to where I was basically doing call center style, and I just needed a change. So what I decided to do was look into appraising. And I picked it for the fact that even though I know zero about cars, it all came to me for the point of loving customer service, love helping people move forward. And, the insurance industry is big. So that's why I chose it.
Wow. And what you just said about helping people, I think that sometimes goes unnoticed in the claims process because you see a lot of things about automating, a workflow, seamless end to end. And I think a lot of times people, even customers, even insurance adjusters, they don't realize some of the interactions that go on when you're dealing with a customer. Often the field appraiser is the only person they ever see in person, face to face. And that's really important because I think a lot of people, do you see a lot of people they're stressed out when they're in a claim, or like, what's it like?
Yes. And sometime I'll meet a person and they'll say, "You're the first person I've talked to."
Wow.
And I'm flabbergasted sometimes, but it's one of those systems to where when an accident happens, they call, it starts going right through the process. And the biggest thing that I like to do is I state my role to them every time. I know my role isn't as big in the process, but I tell them it is an important one. So that way I can get the claim moving forward by having my job complete. And then sometimes they just want someone to talk to hear their story.
That's a really good point. I think that interaction face to face, they just need a person with empathy, somebody to understand and hear them out. And I think that really is it really is so important. All right. Now, you told me before we've talked that you started kind of in the HE arena. And for me, that seems pretty impressive because I started in the auto side. I started in the insurance carrier side, and I kind of learned through their training classes. And that's how I learned. How did your path go compared to that? Like you started, I believe you started in HE.
Yep. I started in HE. It was a big transition after moving from Arizona to Charlotte. And after taking my auto class with IAPath, I didn't want to get right into the field because I was nervous. So I thought the best route for me would be to go into the shop and learn from the techs, learn from the managers, and really get an idea of what it's like to work in a shop, work with the people I will be working with as an appraiser. So that way I'll know the ins and outs.
That makes sense. When I worked at the insurance carriers, they had sent me through intensive training. I went to the headquarters and did a lot of multi-day intensive study. And I think taking that path, like you're talking there, so you said you did some classes first, then went and worked at a shop to really learn the process. How would you say on the HE side, on heavy equipment, did it help you get into the auto, or was it complex? How, because to me, I always felt like that was a whole different area that I was kind of nervous about because it seemed complex to me. What was it like?
Yeah, it can be nerve-wracking, but since I didn't know anything about auto, I thought it made it easy. Because the biggest thing is just sitting back and listening. I think it's for the fact that I went in, I walked in with the right attitude. I went in focused. My primary concern was to listen for my techs and the people around me because they are the most knowledgeable.
Well, was there a lot of pressure though? Did you feel pressure at the time with the fact that a lot of time in heavy equipment claims, it seems like there's always a rush to get these vehicles back on the road because they have to have them for deliveries. They have to have them for transport, where I know, in an individual's car, they will get a rental car usually if the vehicle's in for repairs. But in this situation, did there seem like there's more of a condensed time? Did you feel under stress to have to get the vehicle out quicker?
It does move a lot faster because you're right. When they're now on the road, they're losing money. Point blank period. When they're down the road, they're losing money. So we would have to move fast. Turnaround times could be a week. All depends on the type of damage.
What about parts? That's one area, Chanel. That's one area that I know a lot of appraisers that may not have a lot of experience in writing heavy equipment type claims. A lot of times we hear that, hey, I can't get part prices. It's taking me 5 or 6 days. And from our perspective, the insurance carrier is asking, hey, what's taking so long? Is that a serious concern, or is it difficult to find parts, or how does that work?
It can be difficult to find parts. It's not as easy to just Google it at times. The second thing is that when you call dealerships to get parts, keep in mind, they're busy because they have phone calls, they have people walking up to their counter. So it's really hard to sit down with them and get a whole list of 10 parts and expect to get that done within, 24, 48 hours sometime. So what I learned and talking to people I know, that goes to the back burner. You won't be surprised. Appraisers won't get parts pricing from them. So it's for knowing the ins and outs of it. There's ways to where the heavy equipment claims estimates are a little bit more condensed sometimes for the fact that you're not able to get that 20 list of parts, but you are able to get 5 parts. And then once it's actually in the shop is able to get parts easier because they have that person dedicated to them to really sit down and search part pricing.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, would you say that writing HE claims to begin with, sort of at the start of your career here, made it easier overall working with cars in general? It just became a lot easier?
It sure did.
Okay.
It sure did.
Well,
it sure did.
One thing you'd mentioned to me when we spoke before that kind of said that you kind of learned the why behind the what. And it was kind of is a statement you told me, and that stuck with me. And you really learned that process in that. Tell me a little bit about that. When you're working with techs, how did that really increase your skill set? You would just be able to sit there with them during the day and kind of like really look at the repair process and understand it more?
The big thing that my techs had me do, because we all had our own things to do, is the fact that when I would write my estimate at the beginning, I would, hey, look over this. Is this exactly what you need, just by looking at it, just that we can get this approved through insurance? And they would go line by line with me at the beginning and be like, I need this as well. This has to be on there, such as like an alignment for the front bumper. Sometime they would be like, you have to put an alignment. I'm like, well, why? I was like, I need to know the why behind the what, because I am the middle person and I have to explain this to the person over the phone. So that way, if that adjuster says no, I can come back and say yes, and this is why.
So you really, I think from my perspective, that hands-on experience of being right there in the shop every day it's like live training every day. A lot of appraisers in the industry, if they go through, insurance corporate training, those are really good classes too. They're fantastic. And I learned a ton. But I'll tell you, when I got out there in the field, gosh, it was 25 years ago now. It seems like such a long time ago. it still doesn't beat being in a collision repair facility. You're still going to have to learn on the job. And I remember I looked at the time when I started, and even after a couple of years in, it was just like, I learned so much, because just the interactions, you start to learn the ins and outs of really what the repair process is. And that's really a valuable experience you had. Hey, I want to switch over to how you moved into the auto side. And I know you had did a lot of the IA path classes. Tell me about that experience and how that was, and what you did in those classes, and how it helped out.
It was probably the best step forward I could have taken, is to get in the industry. And probably one of the biggest reasons why I got my position at HE, even though I didn't know anything, it was the fact that I wanted to learn, the open-mindedness. So IA Path helped me learn the basics of this is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what like certain things are called. This is the process. So IA Path taught me how to get started and make me feel comfortable and walk in with the right attitude. And also, they also encourage, you have to build relationships in this industry. Yep. Now, even though IA Path taught me the basics, there is so much more to learn. Mm-hmm. And the best way for me to learn is by building those relationships with the shops, going in for the supplements, even if it's like at the beginning, even if it's easy, go in there, learn, talk to them about the supplements. And that's also how I learned. I would teach the adjusters who would come into my body shop, because like you said, they didn't know trucks as well. Right. So learning with them, IA Path taught me the basics. It helped me move forward. We have and the second best thing about IA Path is definitely the support group, the mentors we have, because we mentor each other. Everyone works together as to like, hey, I've had this type of claim, haven't worked on this before. Can someone look at this and give me an idea of how much repair time, or where can I go to find parts pricing?
That's really great. So you guys, you sort of have a support network within some of the class members you've had there. That's great.
Oh yeah, it's a great support group. That way you're not walking in also as like a deer in headlights, because it's not like you're walking into an office. You're in front of your own computer.
And I think that's really important, because I think the more relationships you have, even in the eye industry, you help each other out, even probably get potential new clients, and just that connection of knowledge is really powerful. And that's what I've heard about iPad. I know Chris has been doing a lot of great work out there, and that's credit to him and what he's been doing. And it's exciting to see a lot of the relationships growing like that, and people building their skills in this industry. Let me ask you about building your business now. So you took the leap, you went out and you started your own company now at this point. You've left there, you've done the IA Path classes. Tell me about the start of how because anybody can start a business, but you got to get clients. How did you go about building, because you work for you market your company to multiple businesses out there, companies out there. How do you go about doing that? Like, what are some tips like you would give an appraiser, like they're starting out? What can they do?
The biggest tip that I would give is, how I got started was definitely going off the small group of the small list that IA Path provided me, which ACD was one of them. You guys got me started, and you guys have such a great community. Also going on LinkedIn, marketing myself when I get to really show that I know how to do these type of claims, especially my heavy equipment. Because that's what I love doing. I like doing cars, but I love doing HE.
I'll tell you, that's one thing I am absolutely impressed with what you do. Your posts come on the timeline. I see what you're doing out there. And I'd have to say, other IAs out there, take note and listen to what Chanel's doing, because that's how you get attention, focusing on continuing marketing yourself like that. That's really exciting. And that's really brought attention to what you're doing out there. And great work on that. So tell me a little bit about, now this is for how you become efficient, and this is for other appraisers listening here. What do you do? How do you become efficient and make your day successful? What are some things that you would say, hey, these are the things you have to do every day if you want to be successful in this business?
Definitely staying organized. I have a process of what I do every morning to make sure I'm on task for what I have lined up for today, especially being a working mother of two kids under 8. I'm out there. My husband's schedule is different from mine because he has more of the second shift, but I have to keep everything organized. I have priorities outside of work, and my goal is to be there for them regardless. So staying organized, following the process, and that's even during every inspection. I know how my time is going to be used. I don't want to waste time because being on the road enough, depending on how far certain claims are, that's enough time wasted as well, compared to a 5-minute drive from somewhere to out like an hour and a half away. That's money.
So you're actually then taking that step to really plan out the mapping of where you're going. So you're being more efficient. You're looking at driving efficiency there. What about statusing files? How do you keep up with that? That's another issue I know some appraisers have trouble with sometimes. How do you keep on top of the claims?
I make notes for every printout I have for every claim I do. I take notes. So when I'm leaving a message, I'm writing it on there. And then after I make notes on all of my files, regardless if it's an ACD or other firms, I'm going on the website at the same time, and I'm statusing all at the same time compared to just after every call. Because I'm not going to be on my computer. I don't have my computer on the road. I just do it on my cell phone, but I like to be more professional and just accurate with when I get home, it's going in there instantly. So that way everyone knows what's going on.
Yeah. And that's key. I mean, keeping everybody updated is so important because when you take away those moments of, an adjuster wants to know what's going on. If you status those files, I say that to every appraiser out there, the more you status your files or at least keep everybody updated of what's going on, it reduces phone calls in the field too. That's one thing appraisers, if you don't status your files, you end up getting a ton of phone calls asking what's going on, and that can be eliminated by just giving a simple status update. So, here's the thing, working on different rosters for different companies. How do you keep in touch with the contacts at the different companies just to keep your name out there? Do you check in every so often, or how does that work? So, to market the business.
I like to do check-ins because that way I let them know, hey, I'm out here because I want to be the number one in that area. I want to be the one getting the money. If I'm too busy, I will let you guys know, but I would love to work every single claim in Charlotte if I could. I send temp check emails. Be like, hey, how you doing? I'm out here, especially when it's slow. Because I never know how many in my area are added on. That's
super important because I think we like it. Our vendor recruitment team, the team that manages, we love hearing from the network because we don't know. Sometimes people have different things going on in their lives. Like maybe they're going on vacation, or maybe they are overloaded with another company, or maybe they just need a break. But the key is when you keep in communication with the different companies like that, then that, like you said, a temperature check, they know where everything's going. So, okay, yeah, maybe, because you never know. There's been times appraisers have called us and they call it just the right time. And all of a sudden in their actual area, there's a ton of claims. Maybe there's 50 claims come in on a catastrophe claim or something. And at that right time, hey, they're ready to take it and ready to go. So I always tell people, keep in touch and always, check in. It's super important. I want to dig in a little bit about the process in the field when you're dealing with customers. Is there a routine you kind of go through when you're meeting with a customer? Because that, like you said before, earlier in our conversation, is oftentimes the only face they see is the person they're meeting with. Do you have a certain protocol or a way you handle a claim when you get to a site?
Yeah. I have a script. I have a script for them.
Okay.
And just a process I like to do. I like to go up to them, greet them, let them know my role is, just remind them what I'm there for, and also let them know what my process is going to be. Take photos of everything, outside, inside, especially having them understand why I'm taking photos of the inside.
Right.
So because some people are always either wants it locked or I'm like, well, if I can't do it if it's locked. I got to have access to the inside.
I know they ever ask you like, why do you need in my car? And then a lot of times some carriers want the photograph of that registration too. So like, hey, why do you want the registration? Yeah, just to verify the vehicle and all that. But the photo process, That is actually it seems one of the most simple, easy things to do, but it's actually one of the most important. I mean, like when you do it, do you have it a certain way you do it, or how do you handle that to make sure you capture everything?
Um, what I like to do is I have a process of all four. I have the regular, but when I start taking photos of the damage, I like to make sure I'm getting the area photos compared to only close up,
Right.
because
Yes.
I always like to have my photos tell a story.
That is super important. It
Yeah,
really is.
it has to tell a story to the estimate. Otherwise, if I'm just getting a close-up photo, which most people will do, like, hey, how much does it cost to repair this? And I'm like, I can't even tell where that's at. Like, you have to do the zoom out
I
kind
know
of.
exactly what you're talking about. I find that all the time. And a lot of times when customers are doing photo estimating, they take their own photographs. We see that all the time. The owner will take a close up of something, you don't even know what it is, and they take one other photograph, and then you're like trying to write an estimate off that. And I think that's the key. Telling the story is very, very important. As we get close to closing here, I want to kind of just wrap up with some of the things. What advice? I mean, your story of going out, doing the classes, starting at a shop, going out and doing your business and building your business. I mean, somebody that may run across maybe an iPath ad on LinkedIn, or somebody that hears about it, or maybe that are at a collision repair facility right now and they go, hey, maybe I want to start a business. What advice, or what are some of the things? I'll ask this question. My question is, one or two things that were shocking to you, maybe, or you didn't expect that was a challenge when you went out on your own? And what are maybe a couple of things that you would say that that you enjoy about it, that makes this running your own business great and you enjoy about it? Just one or two things you can think about.
I would say you definitely have to be open-minded and willing to learn and have a drive for results attitude. That's one of the biggest things that I enjoy about this job.
Okay.
When I went on my own, I wasn't surprised about a lot of things, because I think I would have been more surprised for the fact about it is hard to get HE parts pricing. It is. And I'm glad I worked in a shop before and start asking questions before I left to know what to expect and to know how to do my workarounds, to not have like 5-day delays.
Okay, got it.
And
That makes total sense.
Communicate with the like HE shops more, and building relationships on those.
I would say, just like talking in this conversation we're having today, really for anybody out there, it's really about communication. It's about always having the mind to keep learning. Like you said, you keep trying to soak in more knowledge, learning, and always get your skills better. That's so important. That and communicating to people. I think somebody jumping in, from my perspective, I say, don't be afraid to ask questions. I always tell people that, and even from us at ACD, when we work with the vendor network, we have our partners. We always say, ask questions, reach out to us. We're here to help. Because as you know, I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of client guidelines. You're dealing with every insurance company guidelines may be a little different. And if you're not reading the guidelines, it can be, confusing, but
yeah, it can.
Great tips. So as we close here, Chanel, I'd like to just give you a chance to kind of pitch a little bit tell us about what areas you cover, what kind of vehicles you inspect, and how someone can get a hold of you.
Yeah, I cover all vehicles: auto, motorcycle, heavy equipment, trailers, farm equipment. I am in the Charlotte metro area. I'll go as far as Greensboro, Hickory. If you pay, I will go. So I am out there on the field. I love it. If you want to get in contact with me, email me at afteritclaims@gmail.com, or look me up on LinkedIn. I get back within like minutes or 24 hours. Like, I'm always willing to work.
Right on. Well, thanks so much, Chanel, for coming on and telling your story. And I think as we tell other appraiser stories out there, it's so exciting, because the part where you're talking about the community, the mentorship, working together is so powerful. And that's so much, it's needed in this day and age. So much people working together like that in an era, like I always close off, in an era where everybody's talking technology, and I love technology too. But this is, claims, I always say this is a human business. You're dealing with people, and having great people such as yourself out there working and really delivering on what the insurance carriers are promising, which is great customer service. And you're a great example of that. And it was great to have you on today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time and the conversation, and I enjoy being part of the ACD family. Thank you so much.
That's great. Hey, great. We appreciate you having you as a partner as well. And thanks again for being on.
This has been Focus on Claims with Ernie Bray, President and CEO of ACD.